Good morning to all of you, to our Panorama Itaúsa 2024. I am Juliana Rosa. I am a journalist, and I've been, this is another year here by the side of Alfredo Setubal. He is the president of IR of Itaúsa. Well, first of all, for those of you that are watching us, the transmission through the website of the event, we have the simultaneous translation into English and getting also the sign language. So when I see Alfredo, I know that we are getting close to Christmas. And Alfredo Setubal, well, it's a pleasure to be with you. Well, it's a great pleasure to be with you. Once again, another event, Panorama in Focus. Well, we have news. We have many things to discuss. We have a lot of news this year. We have the full agenda, and we're going to start talking about the results of the third quarter of 2024. Now, of Itaúsa, after the first block, we're going to receive Raul Calpati. He is the president of the board of directors of Itaúsa. Raul will talk about the governance and strategy of the holding. Secondly, we're going to receive Frederico Pascovich. He is the director of new investments in Itaúsa, and Priscila Greco, the CFO of Itaúsa. And we're going to talk about the management of portfolio returns and discounts of the holding. Second block, we're going to have the traditional talk with the participation of all the CEOs of the invested companies of Itaúsa, and to talk about strategies, business strategies, and avenues of growth of the companies. We're going to start with the financial sector. We're going to have the participation of Milton Maluhy. He is the CEO of Itaú Unibanco. And then we're going to subdivide by segments. We're going to have the segment of Consul with the participation of Antonio, the CEO of Dexo, and then Liel, CEO of Alpargatas, then the sector of energy, the virtual participation of Caio, CEO of Copa Energia. And lastly, we have an infrastructure block gathering Miguel and Eric, which are the CEOs of CCR, Aegea, and NTS. And we have a lot of quality content coming up ahead in the event. And we're going to talk about the questions, comments that we received from you via the social networks and also in Panorama Itaúsa 2024. Well, Alfredo, already giving a bit of a spoiler. It's going to be an interesting event. Could you tell us more about the issue of transparency, governance? And we start our discussion with the issue of the balance sheet of the third quarter in 2024 at Itaúsa of the event. You can comment. You can bring everything that you'd like to know. I'm going to ask a question to Alfredo, but you can take part, and you should take part. So this event is better. Well, the results of the third quarter, first question, Itaúsa just published last night. So could you comment on those results? Thank you, Juliana. Well, the results were very good. They stem from an economy that has improved this year. We're growing at a rhythm that is above what was expected from the market. And this has helped with the performance of our companies. All of them with results above of what we had in the budget, above the results of last year. So this has contributed strongly so that the holding had growing results. We published a revenue of 3.9 billion reais. This is an increase of 13.3%. In regards to the third quarter, this is very good. The return on the liquid assets, we can see net patrimony, we see solidity, and a return that is very good, above the cost of capital for our shareholders. We closed the quarter with 86.5 billion reais in net assets. So very substantial. Our net debt is 0.9 billion, so very controlled. very easy in the standpoint of amortizations. Also, the coverage of interest rates, 13.5 times against 9.3 times against last year. So showing a growth that is substantial. And the value of our portfolio in the market at the end of September of 2024, which is the date of the balance sheet, 142 billion reais. Very good asset, good performances of our invested companies, mainly Itaú Unibanco, and we can talk about this with Milton Maloli up ahead. Great percentage of growth, yes. And there is an issue that we always discuss. We submit the questions, and we got one. Jorge Luis da Silva, Marcelo Ramos, well, they're asking, is there any prediction for the payout of the bonus on the shares? Well, we announced last night, I apologize, the reserves of our patrimony of 7 billion reais, and we're going to concede a bonification of 5% for the shareholders. This bonification has a cost of 13.6 reais per share, so this makes that the cost of the shares for the shareholders, natural persons, increase. This is good for them because from the fiscal standpoint, at the moment that they want to sell those shares, they're going to have a revenue that is less in regards to their cost. So they're going to pay less interest, well, they're going to pay less taxes. So we always try to do that bonification in the shares, so they're going to have a fiscal benefit for the shareholders, not increasing the cost. Yes. So paying less taxes is always good. So another good thing, another good question about dividends. Well, let me separate a few things. On the dividends, Pedro Moroyama, Hernani Cayoto, Marco Aurelio, we have a lot of questions on dividends. And it's about the perspectives of Itaúsa on the dividends. Well, the companies are doing better. As we've seen before, the perspective is that they pay more dividends, more interest over capital in regards to the results of 2024. We have as a practice to distribute all the dividends that we receive from Itaú Unibanco, and we withhold the dividends that we receive from the non-finance companies to face the cost of the holding, the expenses, the payment of debts, payment of interest rates. So we use all those resources to face these expenses. We expect that we can distribute the dividends at the beginning of next year above the minimum that is expected. There is a perspective that Itaú Unibanco will distribute the extraordinary dividends at the beginning of the year. The president of Itaú Unibanco commented on this possibility at the last meeting with the investors. So if there is an increase in the dividends of Itaú Unibanco, we're going to pass on that dividend for our shareholders. The expectation is that there is a growth in the value of the dividends that are relative to the year 2024 for the shareholders of Itaúsa at the beginning of the next year. Well, it's important to get the return, but the profile of Itaúsa that I felt for many years, it is a profile that I can observe, that commitment with the team of Itaúsa of offering trust for people that want to invest money, also getting the return, but also the consistency and the robustness and the trustworthiness for the shareholders and the partners. Well, this is a video that talks about the solidity that pushes for the future, and this is the theme of today. Everything starts with the first steps, and with our journey, it wasn't different. By taking a step at a time, that we became ever more Itaúsa. By the side of our partners, employees, and shareholders, we've grew, we've evolved, and we've transformed. We believe in a stronger Brazil for the companies and for society as a whole. We encourage opportunities to expand horizons, and we invest in the transformation that strengthens the market with a long-term vision, consistency, and open to new. We build our solidity. step by step. So, this is the way that we can influence a positive future. Our solidity has led us here. Our strength is for the future. But this is not new. It's over 50 years of history, and everything began with the first step. Panorama Itaúsa 2024. Strength that drives the future. Strength that stimulates the future. This phrase really summarizes the history of Itaúsa. Yes, it's a great summary. It's a story of success. Great investments, and as we said before, we are celebrating next year 50 years of Itaúsa. Itaúsa was created as a holding non-finance in January 1st in 1975. I wasn't even born, I'm very young. So, we're going to celebrate 50 years. Next year, there's going to be great events, activities, related to the history of Itaúsa that started with the bank, with Dexco, and now has a great portfolio. It's a company that has great brands, takes part on several sectors. Very interesting story. We're very proud of its performance. Always based on solidity, on strong governance. Respecting our shareholders, minority, institutional, natural person shareholders. We're always working on the process of strengthening the governance of our company from the standpoint of bringing more security at the decision-making process due to this new moment of the company that is celebrating 50 years. Well, Raul has a very special invitation to talk about this theme of our next topic of the agenda, which is to talk about more about governance and the evolution and the strategy of Itaúsa.
Olha, Alfredo vai retornar em breve para a gente explorar.
Alfredo will be back shortly to talk about the other topics of Itaúsa, and he made a special invitation, and I have the pride and joy of having Raul Calfat. He is the president of the administration board of Itaúsa. Wow, it's the first time that you're here at Itaúsa and Panorama Itaúsa. Welcome. Alfredo, well, you know, we can mingle. We already talked about Christmas, the 50 years. So welcome. This is also your home. It's a very pleasant event. Well, thank you, Juliana. Good morning. Good morning to everyone that is watching us. This is a very important event because Itaúsa quarterly pays account to the market, and at the same time there were suggestions, recommendations from analysts, investors. An event that is traditional, but now it's a bit larger than usual. Itaúsa has grown a lot, and we are displaying all the strength of Itaúsa, the market penetration in the several segments of the economy. Raul got into the board of Itaúsa in 2023. Since May, you are the president, chairman. And he is the first independent member to take on this holding. And I wanted you to discuss on the importance while we talk about the Panorama Itaúsa, which is governance. Tell us, what can you highlight on the evolution of governance of Itaúsa? Ethics, excellence, governance were always present in the conduction of the business of Itaúsa. That counts on the support and the commitment and the values of the controlling families and also the competency of the independence, of the independent councilman. We have a parity board. It's 50% shareholders, controllers, and 50% independents. With the growth of the holding and the growth of the business, we have grown also the part of management of Itaúsa that now has a professional body of investors, very well trained to do analysis and follow up the businesses. But I would like to state that Itaúsa is evolving all throughout this period, as Alfredo has said. And we had important advancements since last year. 50%, as I've stated before, of the board members are independent, so this is a considerable advance. I am the president, I'm the chairman of the board, and I'm independent. The committees, all the committees have chairmen that are independent. And we have a few committees that have 100% of the independent members. For example, the Committee of Audit and Risk became statutory, and we have an independent member that is a president, that is the chairman of this committee, and we have two specialists that were hired from the market, and they are really focused in this area. So it gives you a lot of tranquility in the management. Certainly. There is the issue of independence. You are investing in sustainability as well. Yes. One of the committees, actually, the Committee of Sustainability, we've had the opportunity of hiring a specialist board member that is renowned, that knows the sector, and that has brought a series of interactions with the board, and then I can comment a bit more later. Raul will stay here. Well, Alfredo, Raul just stay a bit. But besides that, we have the committee for the related parties, which is important. And not only we have an independent coordinator, but all the members are independent. We've had other advances. One of them is the evaluation of the board. We've done an evaluation that is collegiate of the board. And when we do this evaluation, we define an action plan. With this action plan, we had a series of adjustments and improvements in the dynamic of the board. You're having more meetings. Yes. We started to have meetings that stem from these recommendations of the evaluation of the board. We start to have monthly meetings. The advantage of having these monthly meetings is that the members of the board integrate more, they understand better the unfolding of the businesses, and they can give guidance to our representatives in the invested companies, because we have a better understanding regarding this. And in regards to the evaluation of the board, we are taking another step this year when we do the individual evaluations. This is the first time at Itaúsa that we do an individual evaluation of the board members, of the councils. Well, what are the priorities of the board of management? Itaú is a holding that does the management of the portfolio. So we have a strategic priority. For such, we need to have a great understanding of the business, so the advances of governance are fundamental. And at the same time, we need to have a reinforcement of the structure, so we can do an evaluation of the businesses with the most amount of training as possible. Yes, several segments and a big challenge. Challenge from 2017 to 2022, we've invested 11 billion reais. With such, we started to take part in 5 different sectors. These are leading companies, in the sectors that are leading sectors of the economy that demand a different type of training regarding the previous structure. That's why we reinforce the structure of the holding, and we today it's very difficult to have less than 12, 15 companies in the pipeline of the companies that are being evaluated for investments. When we do these investments, of course, we had the peak of the debt in September of 2022. From that moment on, we did a very successful liability management with the selling of shares from XP. Yes, we discussed that a lot in the previous panoramas. That has brought a considerable result for all the shareholders of Itaúsa. And we use those resources mainly to pay the debts and to do the increase in the deadlines. The first amortization that we have today for the growth of debt only happens in 2028. So we don't have anything to pay in 25, 26, and 27. This brings a lot of tranquility, and the net debt over the EBITDA is low, very low. So today we have robustness to seize the moment. But such opportunities are are evaluated so that we get in with the right price at the right moment. And as I told you before, the different trainings of the board allow us to do the evaluation that brings a lot of surety for the investors of Itaúsa. But I'd like to highlight a few additional points that we do at the board, and they end up bringing more quality. We have a program of continuous education at the board. And we had themes related to sustainability, for example, that really helped to change our strategy for this area all throughout this last year, with a lot of interactions. This allows us to give very specific guidance for the invested companies. We assembled a balanced scorecard with KPIs for the main invested companies in regards to ESG, and we followed and we see the positive points and the improvement points. Yeah, Instituto Itaúsa, it's another initiative. We created Instituto Itaúsa last year. We've had 30 projects under development. In execution, we had 30 million reais that were invested, and with a very positive impact for the country, for the climate, for nature. These are several projects that we develop all throughout Brazil. Yes, that commitment, this is what we discuss with society, with the country. It's a strong brand of Itaúsa. Well, the questions, we have a lot of questions. Leandro Saldini, thank you very much for your participation. He asks the following. What Itaúsa has as a differential that needs to be highlighted for the shareholders so that they invest ever more? Well, Itaúsa is a holding that brings consistent, predictable results. That has a management that is very close to the business. We did investments that are in leaders of the sector. And two are in infrastructure, and one in energy, and two in usage. So the cash flow is very predictable. It oscillates with the economy, and since these are leading companies, they are above the development of the company. So these are sectors of infrastructure. They are benefited by regulatory landmarks because Brazil has a deficit in those areas. They tend to grow above the GDP for many years. And they are very good. And they allow for the regulatory change in this growth. I want to bring to Raul, we're going to go back with you to our chit-chat with the CEOs of the invested companies, and you will help me a lot to extract a lot of good information.
Bom, a gente agora vai aprofundar tema que o Raul abordou aqui.
We're going to talk about this theme, the active management of Itaúsa, return of the recent investments, and discount of the holding. For this talk, we are going to bring back Alfredo. Alfredo, well, we try to take part. Well, you and Alfredo, you can explore also our invitees and the panoramas of the executives of the holding that Alfredo invested. Well, he is the director of investments and portfolio, and Priscila Greco, she's the CFO of Itaúsa. They're always in the background. I call already Priscila by the first name. Yes, we know each other. So, welcome. It's great to have you here. And we have a lot of people interested in this subject. I know that when people ask, there is questions of Wellington Carvalho, Emir Franco. So let's talk about Fred. Well, Fred, let's start to do a retrospect. For me, it's good because I know that there is always news. So let's try to do this retrospect on the context of the acquisitions of these cycles of investments that Raul was mentioning. Well, good morning, everyone. I think that this cycle that started in 2007, it was about 11 billion reais. And during this cycle, our strategic search for strategy and allocation, we want to do great profitability, cash generation, be leaders in the sector. So that we try to associate with partners that have the expertise in the sector and a cultural fit with Itaúsa, and with a good shareholding agreement, capacity to influence the business plan. So this cycle starts with the NPS. Well, 2017 is the first investment. NPS is a natural gas company that we get to the distributing companies and the final consumers. So in 2017, Petrobras had a different leverage situation. They needed assets for their capital structure, and we had the opportunities. We had the investors that were led by Brook, and they had experience in other geographies, and we did the investment plan. NPS has a business model that is very simple, with contracts that are long-term, a cash flow that is predictable, and a strong payment of dividends. So energy is the moment, the issue of the month. Well, 2017, we have Alpargatas. My chronology is correct? Okay. So even for 2017, we had the opportunity of gathering with our business partners at Itaú Unibanco with Moreira Salles, and we had a minority participation with the control of Alpargatas, which is a brand that is the owner of Havaianas. It's, well, I almost came here wearing my shoes. Yes. But Alpargatas is a leader in sandals and flip-flops, and I had the opportunity of the optimization of the operations and accelerating the, well, the company has been evolving non-linearly, because of the pandemic, in the context of the pandemic. But he's gonna be able to comment, and he's gonna take on this trajectory of growth. Well, Itaú Energy, we got Copa Energia. Well, we changed gas. And well, this is a transaction that we closed in 2019, which is a bit more complex. It was closed in 2020, but we were supporting the Arantes family, Copagaz, in the acquisition of Copagaz, and the fusion of Copagaz and Liquid Gas. And they're leaders of the GLP gas, and this is an opportunity of creating the leader of the sector and seizing several energies. Well, getting in utilities, all the growth, and Itaúsa got in with Aegea. And we had the opportunity of changing, Aegea with the families Toledo, Vitorado, their partners, with the bid of utilities for Rio de Janeiro, so the company was growing a lot. There is an inflection point that really accelerated the sector. This has a long avenue of growth in Brazil, which is important, the issue of value of Itaúsa of contributing for the country that has a lot of demands, basic. And then after Rio de Janeiro, we support the company. They did the acquisition in Rio Grande do Sul, and recently in Piauí State, Paraná, Ceará, and we can comment on that growth that is recent. Well, let's discuss, while we're getting to the Christmas time, CCR, because we not only have the roadways, we have the airports. Well, in this cycle of investment, it was what we did. We joined Votorantim in the acquisition of the participation at CCR. So we purchased a participation, and we had the business partners to do the majority block. And CCR is an infrastructure platform in a region, has roadways, airports, and mobility assets. And they have a long ways ahead of growth, an avenue of growth. And we have the need of investment that is very big in the infrastructure in Brazil. They're very well positioned to take part in this growth and supporting Brazil in regards to infrastructure. It's a robust portfolio, retrospective, that is excellent. Fred, tell me, how is Itaúsa managing this portfolio considering these recent allocations? And how have you reinforced the capacity of creation of value of these assets? Well, for us, the work starts on the next stage of the investment. The hard work starts there. So this increase in the portfolio, as Raul commented, generates a higher demand for the participation of Itaúsa in the boards and committees. And I think that this was the biggest demand, was the biggest push for us to reinforce the business model of the holding, focused on the monitoring and strategic report, of course, working with each of the needs of the companies. How has that happened, Fred, in practice? In practice, we strengthen the management of portfolio, which has an important role in orchestrating the information of the holding. We have technical areas that are very well developed in their respective areas of expertise. And here, we concentrate the information, the technical analysis, and we pass it on to the representatives of the boards and committees so they can have an effective actuation, and so that the business plan that we approved at the board can be implemented. Well, and everybody wants more. So another question from Claudia Pereira da Silva, Eder Woods, João Carlos Jasper. They ask if the current focus of the reinforcement of the active management of the portfolio means that we shouldn't have any new investments. No, it's not like that things work. I believe that Itaúsa has two investments that were always the base of the portfolio, which is Itaú Unibanco and Dexo. the old Duratex, but we've done an active management of the portfolio for some time. We had a company that was called Queiroz that was sold. It was sold in 2017, 2018. We had the operation of Itaú Tech that was closed, a part of automation, but we closed the company. We received the shares of XP, as Raul commented, and we sold it. So we've done a active management of our portfolio. And in this cycle of disinvestments, and also we also did investments all throughout these 7 years. So, regardless of all the difficulties that we faced in Brazil in interest rates, volatility, economic policy, well, we were, all throughout these years, to have the joy of finding investments that gave very high returns on investments for our shareholders. And we can explore that with Priscila up ahead. Well, we are focused more in the infrastructure sector, as you said, Juliana, but it's a sector that in Brazil has offered the highest opportunities. The state governments and the federal governments, they don't have the capacity of investment that is very high because of the debts and a tighter budget. So the great opportunities we've seen in the infrastructure with IG, CCR, Copa, energy. So we've managed to create a portfolio, as it was commented by Fred and Raul, of leading companies in their sector, which is key, with very trained partners for the management of these assets. So we closed this first cycle of investments and disinvestments with a very solid portfolio. Priscila, I have a question for you from Renato Seco. He said that he would like to know if the companies non-listed that Itaúsa has done investments have given an adequate return for the shareholders. So if you can comment on how has the market priced the performance of the portfolio of the shares of Itaúsa? Well, great question. You discussed about the retrospect in the investments. There were several investments that we've done over the last years. We were feeling very good about the audience for the results of this portfolio. Starting by the assets, non-listed, which is where we don't have the visibility of the results that were reported, we've had here a record of growth since the acquisition, since the investment. That is very relevant. So it makes sense to go over the main assets of this portfolio and the non-listed companies. I'm going to start by NTS, which is the first investment in this cycle. NTS, as commented, this is an asset that generates cash with the model that is very stable, very predictable in operations. And here, the investments with 4 years, we received a payback of the investment with 4 years. We received it very quickly, all the invested value via proceeds. Well, we weren't expecting such a quick return. It was much quicker than what was predicted in the business plan, and we received, until today, 1.9 billion of proceeds. So almost 2 billion in proceeds, dividends received, and that brought a cash that is very robust for Itaúsa. This means 3 times the value that we invested in 2017. So numbers that are impressive. And when we look at the return rate of this investment, we use the TSR, total shareholder return indicator, that considers 2 important components for the creation of value. The first one is the proceeds that are received since the acquisition, and the second one is how much this asset has been valued since the acquisition, and this corresponds to NTS 403%. So we are almost at 100%. Those that got in with the investment of shares that are close to the Ibovespa index, they didn't get 100%, and Itaúsa got an investment of 400% doing this investment. So it really talks about the discipline of the capital allocation and the way that we choose our assets in a way that is very disciplined and with an attentive onlook for the creation of value of the shareholders. Well, we have number of Copa Energia. This is the second asset that wasn't listed. It was an acquisition in the 2020. This company became, as Fred said, leader in the distribution of natural gas in Brazil. And we have a lot of success in the capture of the synergies between Liquigás and Copagaz. Also, with a schedule that is very accelerated regarding to what was predicted in the business plan and amounts that are above the synergy. It was much higher than what we had predicted in the project. This has brought an important reflection for the operational growth of the company and a company that has grown on average 54% on year on their EBITDA. So this is a threshold of growth that we see very scarcely in the Brazilian company. So here the market, yes, has a potential, 42% actually. I said a different number, but it's 42% of annual growth of EBITDA of Copa Energia. So when we look how this is translated for the return on investment, this is an investment that is very expressive. 155% of rate of return for this investment. So you do the comparison of Ibovespa index with the CDI index much higher. So those that invested in the CDI obtained in the same period analyzed 43%, and we are talking about our investment with a return of 155%. So a great example of the case of capital allocation that we did. We got into the right time with the adequate price and doing a good analysis of the potential of this investment and following up on the execution with a lot of discipline and a lot of close proximity of the company in regards to the business plan. Well, we talk about CDI, the fixed income country. This is important for those of you. You have to understand the active management that you do. It's impressive, the return. Well, last company non-listed, which is Aegea. Well, Aegea, it's another case of success. Since the acquisition, the company has grown through new bids, new concessions. They achieved two blocks of the concession of the utilities of the city of Rio de Janeiro. Very transformational for the company, this growth after this transaction. Rio Grande do Sul with Corsan, with the transaction in the concession of Paraná, recently POE, and it's a company that has grown exponentially. We see the growth of EBITDA. We are talking about 54% on average on year, the growth of the operational results. And this is due to the great execution of the business plan, a very successful model with a track record that is very important of the other concessions, and they can replicate the new concessions and getting great returns. Very predictable. This is another success case. We didn't bring the TSR of the company, but the market can do this calculation of the peers of the market. But we have to highlight that Aegea is differentiating from the peers with a rate of growth that is much higher than the market competitors. So the multiple has to be differentiated when we do this analysis of return for the shareholder. We are talking about the return, and these are great assets that we mentioned. And looking at this data, the data of Itaúsa reflect this good data. We talked about solidity of Itaúsa and to bring in numbers, how much this solidity reflects in the creation of value for our shareholders. The TSR of Itaúsa, we have a window of 10 years If we look at any other window in the time, Itaúsa has performed and created value and return to the shareholders much higher than the other benchmark, Ibovespa CDI. The numbers do not lie. In 10 years, we're talking about 273% of return to our shareholders via dividends, via valuation of the shares. Itaúsa is very inclusive as well. It depends. It works on different markets. Itaúsa has 900,000 shareholders, natural persons. So this is a listed company with the biggest number, and it has a recurrence of dividends. And amongst the biggest companies that are payment of the dividends, that is translated in the great return of investment. And for the shareholders. And we see with the listed companies, this is reflected in the numbers that are very favorable. And that's why we have a lot of people investing in Itaúsa. And we focus on the companies that are non-listed and the closed companies. And here we had a lot of success with that. Raul Calfat talked about in the board of directors. The infrastructure, this is essentially this company's moment of entry as fundamental. If you get in with the right price, you will certainly have rates of return that are very high. So we were lucky to get in moments that help the companies in their inflection moment of growth. They changed their threshold in Copa Energia, Aegea, and these were important moments in the lives of the people, and we can get in and take part in this growth. So we created this portfolio. I think that the companies, they have a pipeline of opportunities, state companies, federal government. They're going to go on with their journey of privatization, then public bids. So we're going to see the opportunities of growth at the level of the holding. That I've just discussed before. Well, we continue to look at opportunities of the holding, but the moment is more challenging for the investments. We see the rates of interest rates on the long term that are very high in Brazil. The central bank, and international uncertainties, well, local uncertainties as well, ever present in our decision-making process. But we continue to look at the team of Fred with several proposals and studies and NDAs that are signed, so that we can evaluate the opportunities, because we are not close to the opportunities. However, with this interest rate, the risk of Brazil high, the real interest rate high, we would need to have returns on investments that are very high at this moment, above the inflation, to justify the risk. We continue to look for them. But at this moment, I see it with a bit of difficulty, our capacity to do new investments in the medium to short term, because of this environment, mainly regarding the interest rate that limits the value creation in Brazil. Yes. It's important to trust in the team, and we have to get in at the right time. And this is a team that is very attentive, very professional. It's important for us to understand how these results should influence in the value of the portfolio and the discount as well at Itaúsa. Well, other factors are important that we have to consider by the market and analyzing the discount on the holding. If you can comment a bit more on this. Well, it's a great question. And this is a theme that is discussed at Itaúsa and with the market Today, Itaúsa, the share of Itaúsa is negotiated with a discount of 21% in regards to the value of the portfolio. So if we look at the numbers that are on the screen, we're talking about Itaúsa being priced by the market at 109 billion reais at this time in October. And just our participation at Itaú Unibanco is worth more than the value of Itaúsa as a whole. So we operate with a discount in regards to the participation of Itaúsa, Itaú Unibanco, and the market is not pricing our portfolio that we achieved in this cycle of investment. And as I told you before, we have 3 cases that are very relevant of assets that are non-listed with a record of growth that is very expressive, a story of return that is much differentiated above the benchmark, and that the market has the possibilities of pricing these assets, the quality of the portfolio, in a more adequate way than the price of our shares. So we understand that the discount is much higher than the threshold that would be fair. And if we consider in this calculation the correct value, the current value of the market of these 3 non-listed assets, we're talking about a discount that goes up 21% and a threshold of 21%. So we have an adjustment of discounts if we consider the current value of the non-listed assets. So this is an important moment for the market. And the second important moment is all the discussion of the tax reform on consumption that will make a lot of difference. And in the case of Itaúsa, this is an element that justifies part of the discount of the we have the tax inefficiency. The cost today we have an inefficiency in the tax of PIS and COFINS taxing on the interest of a rate on the interest over the investment on the invested companies. And Itaú Unibanco pays JCP for Itaúsa. And in 2027, if the tax reform is regulated at the basis that is discussed currently, then we should see the end of PIS COFINS tax and consequently the end of our fiscal inefficiency, bringing an important reduction in the cost of the holding, so about 550 million per year of PIS COFINS that we pay over the interest of our capital of our invested companies. We're talking about a potential of reduction of the discount of Itaúsa, 7 percentage points, which is justified today by the existence of that fiscal inefficiency that we have. So an important point that has to be monitored by the market and the investment in the tax reform that bases, in fact, the laws that are going to be approved, and we have to monitor the impact that that can have on the discount of Itaúsa. So an important component for value creation for our shareholders. Well, I heard Priscilla and Fred. And this is something that we have a lot of information. You know all the details. And you're invited, yes. You're invited for next year. So when you have Christmas go in the future, then you have it also. Thank you to everyone that is watching. I thank you for your participation. And now Alfredo will continue with me to continue with the event. And since we are discussing portfolio, it's the time of our talk with the CEOs, with the invested companies of Itaúsa.
Olha, antes da gente começar aqui o nosso bate-papo
Before we start our talk with the CEOs, I would like to say that at the end of our transmission, that is going to be, we're going to have the Panorama 2024. So it's important that you answer. You just have to capture the QR code that is here on the screen. We count on your evaluation so we can always evolve year on year with this event. Itaúsa also keeps in our social networks. So I recommend that you follow up on the profiles that are appearing on the screen. Well, we have a lot of relevant content in the social networks of Itaúsa. Let's continue with our agenda. Today we have the talk with the CEOs is going to be subdivided in blocks regarding the infrastructure, energy, and we are going to talk to the CEOs of the companies discussing the avenues of growth, the future perspectives, and now we are going to receive Milton Malui. He is the CEO of Itaú Unibanco.
Bom, então aqui já com a câmera aberta,
so here with the open camera, I can say that, well, I'm here with Milton, Raul, Alfredo says stay here.
Ele quer ajudar ele aqui a participar até o final, bom demais, Raul.
It's great to have you here, Raul, Milton, great to have you here. Meet you once again at Panorama. Welcome. Well, thank you, Juliana. Always great to see you. Alfredo, Raul, it's a great pleasure to share this panel with you. Itaú Unibanco has a lot of questions always. Let's talk about the issue at hand, which is the recent transformation on the financial sector in Brazil. Itaú has evolved and always being at the cuff. I am a fan of Itaú. And to keep this strong presence, this position of leadership is important because you are always focused on that. And the bank has discussed itself as becoming a bank of experience. So can you tell us what does that mean? And how is this strategy connected with the needs of the clients? Great. Let me start at a year that we are 100 years. We talk about transformation. We talk about our DNA. The bank reinvented itself throughout these 100 years to be strong and relevant with a base of clients that is very robust with profitability years later. So the word here is transformation. Over the last years, we're going through a transformation that is deeper of the partnership of the technology, and this has to do with the review of our business models that is ever faster. Well, to summarize, we've done this journey over the last years, and we are transforming our legacy system, which is the technological platform that was always a competitive differential. And we've had to do an investment process that was very important to transform this legacy in modern platforms. We opted to do this path instead of creating the digital bank on the side of the bank because we knew that we had to transform ourselves and not the competition. Yes, it made a difference. Well, I know that in practice, that's why Itaú has this differential. This is a long process, intense process, But looking at a journey of the last 5, 6 years, we can say that we've done it with a lot of quality and efficiency. We're very satisfied with the evolution thus far. And now we leave this change on the legacy and the platform while we're going to the artificial intelligence, where we have a modernized platform and artificial intelligence coupled to the teams. Having this knowledge, we can have relevant deliveries for the clients. And now it's the era of experience to transform the journeys and the experience of the client and advance into what we call the hyper-personalization. For each client will have their experience with Itaú Unibanco. And then that makes a lot of difference. We have our super app, which is the biggest delivery value in this process. We are migrating millions of clients. Until the end of the year, it's going to be 5, and next year 15 million. And we start to offer to 50 million clients besides the 70 million clients that we have a hyper-personalized experience within the app in a very simple and with enchanting journeys. This is the big objective. Very good. We can feel, and I have an account at Itaú, and I realize that makes a lot of difference. Many times you get in to the apps and you feel that works, that answer that is general is very personalized, very differentiated. Technology has been an important ally to push for the continuous transformation of the bank. So can you tell us, how has the bank integrated these new technologies, specifically artificial intelligence, in its operation? Because we imagine that this is very far away, ethereal, but can you tell us the practical application of artificial intelligence? And then I have a lot of questions on technology. We want to know how is in practice the artificial intelligence issue. Well, I think that there is a point when we talk about technology. For you to be able to open your mind and understand what's happening outside of the bank, we had to go through a transformational process of the culture that is very intense. And there is one pillar of our culture that I really like, which is the concept of the agent doesn't know everything. It brings you humility of looking outside all the time, of looking at the components and respecting and learning with what the competition is doing. This makes you take decisions with more elements and more information. So this has made us so that the organization is open for knowledge, for the new technologies, for the new solutions. We have today 23,000 people working in units. And we talk about spreads, tribes, but it's the agile model working at scale. Very little institutions can work with the scale that we've managed. And we are delivering value, just to give you data. Comparing to 2018, our value delivery for the client is 15 times higher than what was a few years before. With an efficiency and quality that cannot be compared. We reduced 90% the high impact incidents, and we improved in 55% the unit cost of the transactions. And with all of this modernization, artificial intelligence is an important pillar of the management of the bank. It's a watershed moment. We went through the tech transformation, and we're facing a new era. Artificial intelligence, and this is not a worldwide competition. And we have knowledge. The areas in-house are appropriating this new technology. And when we look at the developers of technology, the bank has 17,000 people in technology. 4 years ago, it was 7,000. So you can see how technology is very relevant within the organization itself. And there is a solution of artificial intelligence that Microsoft brought to several companies in the world. Itaú Unibanco is the third company that uses this artificial intelligence solution to develop code with 15-20% more productivity. These are global companies. Well, Itaú Unibanco is the third. The other ones are IT companies. Just so you can see how we use this. And artificial intelligence can be used at an operational process, labor, legal, or even the call center, and in the relationship with the client. But for this, we have worked with the foundations to have the artificial intelligence that is responsible. Because if you're not careful, these models, when you get the model facing the client, that there is the enormous risk that this is going to hallucinate. And it's outside of our appetite. We want the model to interact with the client. We have invested a lot of time with this foundation so we can have solutions in artificial intelligence in all the processes of the bank, even the ones that you're interacting with the client. So you have the short-term innovative solutions that we're going to display to the market and what we can do with artificial intelligence. The possibilities are infinite. Alfredo, Raul, can you comment? Well, we understand what Milton is talking about, which is the disruption, really, that technology and artificial intelligence brings, and how much Itaú is at the forefront. As Milton said, this is a race, but we have to know how to, it's a means to an end. You talked about the human resources that are involved in these activities. I wanted you to discuss the financial effort on the investment that is being allocated at this area that is relevant, very relevant. It's interesting because when you do the management of a balance sheet such as ours, you can manage the result on the short term. You can have the result on the next quarter, inhibiting the investment. The result comes, you deliver better results because the cost is lower, but you are you're selling the future of the organization, and the advantage of having a shareholder group controller that accompanies the company and that tries to allocate the investments for the next 100 years. This is a big objective of the institution. You have an outlook for the future, and this why we say that Itaú is made of the future, because we take care of the short term as we have, but we invest a lot in the future. We invest in the franchise and the organization. Just in this quarter, to give you a number, the cost core grew below the inflation, 4% for an inflation of 4.5% in the 12 months. Our investments in expansion of business, specifically investment in technology, is going to be 1.8 billion reais, while the core cost is going to be 1.1 billion reais. So it gives you a notion of how much we are investing, being able to absorb this investment, opening the space in the core cost of the organization, so being more efficient in the conduction of the bank, so that we can open the investment, and we can do important investments. And we did this increase from 7 to 17,000, doubling the people, doubling the investment, tripling the investment in technology. So we do an investment that is very relevant in regards to the banking product of the organization, and we do it because we are conscientious that all this value delivery that we've managed with the NPS, Net Promoter Score, the evolution of the engagement of our clients, the experience, in the era of experience, of hyper-personalization is fundamental. So we deliver value for the client. This is a continuous investment that we continue to do, and we project growth for the next years. Well, the issue of management, of the support of the of Itaú for the holding is key. Yeah, we work together through the board of the bank, through Impar, which is the controller holding. We are very close, as Milton has said. The fact that Itaú Unibanco has a control that is very solid, very defined between Itaúsa, the Moreira Salles family, gives us tranquility for the management by the executive committee that is led by Milton, that we can think on the long term and we can have tranquility that it's not just the result of the quarter that is important. We need to have a long-term vision that Milton commented, and all of this is a differential of Itaú Unibanco in regards to many banks, competitor banks. So this relationship, I've always discussed that this relationship with the board and the management, if well used with the maximum degree of trust and a vision of future that is similar. You can have differences in how to do it, if it's this path or that. The vision has to be the same one. It gives you a lot of tranquility for the institution to grow. Because we know the priorities, we are partners on the decisions in happiness and in sadness. And this is a vision of future that brings a body of the executives for the shareholding vision. So that's why we have a partnership program in the bank. We have 350 partners in the organization. All of them think about the Ituber 4, which is the share of our shares. So this is the alignment between the controller shareholders, the board, and the management is 100%. So this is the older vision that all the executives in the organization have. This is part of the culture. So let's talk about culture. 100 years. A lot of things have changed in 100 years, and we are discussing technology. And one issue that is very important is the agenda of people. I know that there is an important issue in this agenda of people for you, specifically in this environment of technology. And looking at this agenda is fundamental. So can you tell us about the importance of this agenda for people to push the bank of the future? I'm going to give you some data that, in my opinion, are impressive. We talk about the fusion of Itaú with Unibanco. That fusion took place in 2008. Today, 80% of our employees, our tubers, as we call them, were hired after the fusion. So it shows that a great deal of the organization didn't even know Bank A and B separately. 40% of our employees were hired after the pandemic. So we're talking about 2020, 40% of our employees shows that this is a young company, culture in transformation, and what we managed to do is to look outside and not just inwards, first to retain and develop and invest in our talents, but also opening our minds and bringing people that come from industries that are different ecosystems that have helped us with this cultural evolution that we've gone through in this great transformation. And human capital for us is the main asset. For you to have satisfied clients, you need to have an engaged team, satisfied team, and this is the day-to-day work, so we can keep the maximum level of ENPS, the Employee Net Promoter Score. We are at the highest thresholds. At the last years, we won the first place and great place to work, not only of the financial sector, but of all the companies with over 10,000 employees in Brazil. So this shows how important the issue of talent is important. Investing in people. Vamos de turno, which is what we talk about the culture, is to have a bank that delivers value for the bank, for the client, regardless of the area that you are in. You have to have a thought in the whole, the look for the client, regardless of the internal issues. The internal issues, we solve them in-house, but it's the client in the first place. So the client centricity, you can only do it with cutting-edge technology, an agile model of work, but a culture that is very strong. An innovation, entrepreneurial culture, ownership with a risk management that is very detailed. This is the big differential. And to bring a few of the aspects of the holding that Alfredo said, capital allocation is a mantra. So how we allocate, we are looking for a sustainable business, and they bring a profitability in the long term that justifies investment. So they are perennial in these investments. And this is a relevant pillar in the decision-making process. You talked about two things. It's important to explore, well, the big differentials of Itaú Unibanco, which is capital allocation and risk management. Well, the risk of the analysis of the scenario, economic scenario, how is this reflected in the capital allocation, in the risk management of the credit portfolio? Well, Alfredo, I would like to say that this is DNA. So we've invested a lot in this pillar. When we talk about finance, we talk about capital inserted in this discussion. So first, we evaluate within the administration of the possible risks. This is an activity of risk management. The bank is a risk management activity. And the more precise the more tools you have, the more culture you have, the biggest is your capacity to take on the correct decisions, and using the toolbox that we have with the models, with the projections, with the teams, so to anticipate the cycle so we can grow in the right portfolio, right client, so we can allocate the operational risk correctly, and we can manage the risk of the market and the balance in the correct way, cyber, which is very much discussed, so we can do the investments that are adequate, so we can have an operation that is protected. So this environment is something that we do, and this is a differential in our management. Not only in management, but also one of the most important committees in the board is the committee that is the managing of the risk and capital that happens every month, and in the sequence we have 3 hours of dedication for this committee. And there we have a panel of control, a panel of there we have all the monitoring of the operation, all the risks, and we can understand where are the deviations, where is the action plan, if it deviated, what are the warning signs. So this management is not just the role of the board, we have to define the appetite for the organization, but it's substantially the role of all the executive of the organization, so that the first, second, third line, the business areas, the risk areas, and audit have a fundamental role in the follow-up of the risks. At the end of the day, everything finishes in the capital, because when we talk about the capital index, capital index for the bank is very important, which is what allows you to leverage your institution. It allows you to pay dividends in the institution. And we've managed, since the pandemic, to have a creation of capital organic that is very important. We left indicators of 10.5 of capital index, and we closed 13.7. And we see the incumbents in general with the capital level of 11. We closed with 13.7. So this shows that we've managed to grow in the organization, doing a great risk management, and correctly allocating the capital. When you have the right allocation with the right return, you create capital, which allows you to expand the organization without you needing to call the capital for the investor. There are own capital investment, and with that, you can get to the point of capital that is not of our interest, to manage the excess of capital beyond what is necessary. I imagine that dividends is one of the questions that we're going to have up ahead, so we can have the extraordinary dividend that we mentioned so much. The capital allocation and risk management, it's a core competency in the institution. All the executives have to talk about that. All the incentives models of the bank are based on the value creation, capital allocation, and return align with what the investors and shareholders have. And before you ask another question, sorry to interrupt, and just a comment with what Milton said, the bank, risk management, and not avoid the risk. Avoiding the risk makes you not growing the capital, not developing. The risk management is key, so you can grow with safety. I want to talk about the 100 years here. Well, there is going to be, this is an institution that is in the celebrations of 100 years of Itaú, with the marketing of Itaú Unibanco. Milton, what can you highlight so that the bank, what can we expect of the moment, and what can we expect of the next 100 years? Well, we started working for the next 100 years. So we celebrate the 100 years, but the next 100 years already started. So we are working diligently so we can have a wonderful story to tell, and maybe 100 years from now, somebody that will be here representing ourselves, we're going to watch from somewhere else these next 100 years celebration. But there's several aspects. The first point that I mentioned, and Alfredo reinforced, it's a control group of shareholders that is very stable and very well defined. These are families that want to perpetuate their business. So they're not looking at the result of that quarter or the dividend or but how can you transform that organization into something bigger? The capacity to adapt very strongly, because you can see how many changes happened over the last 100 years, macro and micro changes. The bank was very capable to adapt to what is coming, not being afraid of the new. This is a strong characteristic of the bank. We are not afraid of the new. We provoke the new, and we go there when things are well. We change again because we think that what brought us here is not necessarily what will take us for the next 5, 10 years. Courage certainly is something relevant that is part of our history, because it's a story that is association, fusions, and acquisition. We need to have competency, doing the right price, as Raul said, but making it happen, not lingering on, because at the moment you're going to have a profitability, but it decreases with the years and it loses relevance. So relevance is something ever present. Entrepreneurial ethics is a differential, and I am certain of that. That's in our DNA, in our shareholders. This is ever present in all the decisions that we make in the organization. And resilience. We know that we can have more difficult cycles, but we're looking at the long term. You don't stop doing what is important because the next 2 years are going to be difficult. No, you look to the future. So it's a set of attributes that the shareholders all throughout these years, well, always looking at this as a relay race, because at the end, this is important for the CEO, for the shareholders, for the board, and we always want to pass on the baton at a position that is good. And I am certain that we only got here because a lot of competent people went through the institution after all these years. So by our math, almost 1 million people worked for Itaú Unibanco over the last years. And the result that we have achieved is the work of everyone. The job didn't start in 4 years or 7. It's 100 years of history. So all of them had their contribution, and their shareholders, the board. Well, this is what you mentioned is very strong. And I've realized that with the group at Itaúsa, we talked about that, of valuing this story. And we will we will prepare a video to talk about this 100 years that has really marked us. Well, we asked artificial intelligence to show us an image of what's going to be the next 100 years. Because the future is not just going to be made of one image. It's going to be made of those that say yes, and those that take no for an answer. Those that ask why not. It's going to be made of phenomena and new phenomena. It's going to be made of queens and new queens. Made of all the skins, of all the voices. It's going to be made of touch and made of contact. Made of humans, ever more humans. It's going to be made of Sandra that works at Itaú for 38 years. Made of Mariana that was just hired. The future is made of you, that just like Itaú is made of the future. Welcome to the next 100 years. We will also be there. Very nice. I'm always sentimental with these dates, all the history that you bring, and the issue of value. Very strong for the group. And I think that this is great, the inheritance of valuing. Speaking about this, Milton, and to close, it has to do with the strategic analysis and ESG of the bank, because we are talking about a broad responsibility of people, governance, and the metrics of ESG are more ambitious. Can you detail these actions, and why has the bank decided to renew? Well, first of all, the ESG agenda is part of the institution. I got into the bank in 2002, January. I got in, the first time that I worked at the bank was 95, I left, and then I was just a busboy. Well, there, a bit of the history. The bank started to take part of Dow Jones Stability Index in 2009. And this is just to show you that this is not something that is in vogue. This is present in the culture. All the foundations, Instituto Unibanco and Fundação Itaú Unibanco, Fundação Itaú for Culture, and they do beautiful work with a lot of investment in education. It's a social work that is important. We have all the pillars of diversity as one of the pillars of our culture. We want diversity and inclusion and equity. And we've done the movement, very important, of doing a relevant investment to remove any difference in salary and remuneration amongst every people of gender, race. The differences were very small. But we found a historical component, and we've done an important adjustment. And we take this agenda very seriously. We also have the sustainable finance agenda, which is very important. In that sense, we declared that the big objective of the bank is to be the bank of the transition of the clients, helping our clients to do the transition of an energy matrix that is dirty to a clean one, so we can help with the environment and all of that within which it entails. 2019, we defined an objective. Well, we need to structure the credit operations and capital markets operations of over 400 million reais. We have the objective until 2025. A year and a half before June of 2024, we fulfilled the 400 million. And we said, okay, we cannot rest in our laurels because this is a mobile objective. So what are the next years? We thought about. We've done a lot of internal work to define what is the impact that we can cause for the economy, for the country, for society. So we increased the 400 million went to 1 trillion reais, which is very relevant. And our objective is in 1 decade, from 2020 to 2030, we've reimbursed structures of 1 trillion reais from 400 billion reais for positive impacts in the economy. This is our big objective. We are accounting for these operations. We have over 420 billion reais invested, and we think that this is a great objective to be pursued, and we want to help mobilize. This is not a dispute on the competition, because in the end, this is an invitation so that all the institutions will do something similar. Taking into consideration their appetite, their size, so that society mobilizes. So if everyone does their fair share and generates an impact, we're going to have a better world in the next years. This is an important pillar of our strategy. Well, do you want to compliment? We're getting to the end of this block with Milton, and we also have a lot of, it's very diverse themes being discussed, but the numbers are very expressive. The effort, 1 trillion in a decade, is a very important indicator, so that the community of entrepreneurs, not only the business and financial entities, that they can really mirror and adhere to this effort so we can have a transformational change. Yeah, this is the big objective. So let's bid Milton goodbye. Alfredo will stay with us. Thank you, Milton, for taking part in this block and share your knowledge and the vision for the next 100 years. We will see you in the next one. It's in the agenda. Well, always a pleasure to talk to all of you that are watching us, investor clients, competitors as well. This is our agenda of a lot of transparency, a lot of perspiration, and we really are working strongly for the next 100 years. Very satisfied with the results thus far. We've managed to deliver solid results with profitability that is very robust, but the result of the past is not a guarantee of the future results. So we have to be here every day doing a deep dive, but I am certain that with the 100,000 YouTubers, we are capable of doing incredible things, and we are going to continue to pursue that. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you, Alfredo. We will see you shortly.
Até a próxima conversa jornalística.
See you on the next talk. So,
jornalista, já me dá uma data. Obrigada, viu?
Thank you very much.
Tchau, tchau. E olha, a gente agora então vai.
And now we are going to go to our block about the consumption sector, and this block is going to have the participation of Antônio Joaquim de Oliveira, CEO of Dexco, and Leo Miranda, which is the CEO of Alpargatas.
Estamos aqui de volta, então, já.
We are here again. Let's continue with Antonio and Leo here present. Thank you very much for being here. It's great to have you here live. Thank you for the invitation. Well, these are different industries. Alpargatas and Dexco are companies that are relevant for their market, strong brands, and products that are present in our day-to-day. Over the last 2 years, the two companies face macroeconomic contexts that are very challenging. And in that sense, we start the conversation with the two leading with Raul to talk about the strategic position of the companies. And to start with a scenario, let me start with Antonio, with this big challenge of the strategic positioning facing the challenges that are ever present. Thank you, Alfredo. Thank you for the invitation, Raul. Raul, long-term partner in our board for 8 years. So he has followed the process. The big challenge here, as Alfredo said, in Brazil we have the challenge every day. Every year is challenging, permanently challenging. So at Dexco, our biggest challenge is to ensure the transformation of the company. We come from a company that comes from a base that is historically industrial and a mentality that is very industrial. Let's produce the products, let's get them in the market for a company that now we try to be a branding company where we have all the products. The portfolio that is as broad as possible for this sector of the real estate, for finishing. So we have wood, we have metals, we have ceramics, and recently we have the investment in a participation that is very relevant in cellulose. So a company from a complex portfolio that we are seeking to focus on the brands and with a better interaction with the consumer, and to transform a company with an industry mentality to a mentality company that is focused on the brand, closer to the consumer, then you have to fit it with the culture. So our director mentions this. You cannot work with the CNPJ without working with the CPF. So we went through the last 2 years with a big transformation. Today we have a very mature company with management that is consolidated and with a strategic focus as the other companies in the group, a focus that is on the long term trying to build the future through this process. So we are permanently reviewing the portfolio, reviewing the operations, trying to be as dynamic and competitive as possible. Dynamic is the word. At Alpargatas, you have a process that is important of redefinition of the strategy, prioritization, that it needs to be revisited. I wanted you to tell us about this process. You did a review. At which moment Alpargatas restarted? Well, Alpargatas went through a situation over the last 2 years after the pandemic where maybe we had to do a turnaround. And this turnaround happened very quickly. Since last year, we left the situation where we were burning cash flow, and today we generate cash flow for over a year. And today we have a positive cash flow, and the health of the company is good for investments. Another thing is the portfolio for products. We've diversified the markets that were present. This created a stress on the resources of the company, the capacity to execute. So we're very focused on what is our big strength, which is the Havaianas brand. We're very focused in 15 markets, which is where the brand is present. We have stores, we have consumer of the brand, and we're very focused on the channels, and we have more effectiveness. In Brazil, for example, Havaianas is present in 300 points of sale, and we have the turnaround, financial turnaround that was suffering. We don't have a company with cash flow problems or indebtedness or operational costs. And the second question is that we're focusing on something that we're very good, and we're going to continue to grow on that. Havaianas is in the hearts of Brazilians and the world. Certainly. Well, let me ask a question to Liel. You did an important movement. You took on the company at a very delicate moment. Well, you've also done a cultural change. Can you tell us more about this? I think that Alpargatas is similar to what happens in most of the companies. Alpargatas had a culture of manufacturing in the past. Actually, the future of the company is in the capacity of servicing the client. Well, we have a bit of a noise on your microphone. We're going to do a quick change of the microphone so we can understand very well what Leo is saying, because we are running around to hear all of this transformation. And so we can change the microphone of Liel so that the information is not lost. Where everyone is pushed to run and run, in this world, we say, no, you cannot run with your Havaianas. Life needs pauses. That's why Havaianas has invited everyone to slow down. Put on your Havaianas and take your time. Take it easy. Go with Havaianas. Very short video, but enough time to change the microphone. Can you hear me? 1, 2. Everybody can hear me? Good. Yeah. Now going back, Alfredo was talking about culture. Culture, a bit as was described with Texco, this is a 100-year company. Very focused on efficiency, effectiveness, and manufacturing. The world is focused on consumers. The market is more competitive. And the integration of the company. So we are doing we manufacture flip-flops. So we're working together to service the consumers. We are walking hand in hand. The culture is not just of words, made of words. The great deal of what we're doing is the changing of the processes in the company. Management, from the main and the delivery of the client, this is being reviewed. And with that, this is bringing automation. There is the hardware of the culture. We have systems that talk with the company, and there is a software that makes us work together for the benefit of the consumer. So that aspect of management is very important with the transformation that has been done. I wanted you to highlight the supply chain and scheduling production so you can get to the expected results. Well, maybe this is the biggest opportunity that we have here in Brazil. Talking about alpargatas and Havaianas, we have two business models here. Brazil, it's the day-to-day usage product. We sell one pair of Havaianas for Brazilians every year. So you have to be present in point of sales with the right size, with the right color, with the right foot number. This is the big challenge of supply chain here in Brazil. To solve this, we've invested with the integration between shop floor, delivery, sales, so that these processes can be shortened. And we can deliver a number. To give you some reference, there is an indicator that we use. How many requests can we deliver in the day in the amount of time that the client is demanding? We left from very low numbers, 30%, and now we are above 70%. And in the main clients here, the key accounts, there are 15 main clients, we are above 80%. So you possibly know, but the wholesale, yes. And then you'll be able to find the product there. And this is in Brazil. And abroad, we're present in 15 markets in a very strong way. Many other markets, but these are the main 15 ones. It's to guarantee that the product is getting at the right time, because it's only in summer that you sell Havaianas, so you have to get the product there before the summer in the Northern Hemisphere and Europe. So you do the production to be in 2024. We delivered 95% of all the products in Europe and the United States before the summer, so the international consumers can buy their Havaianas at the right time. I always ask at Panorama, something that is curious. How many Havaianas do you have? I think that I'm on the right approach of Brazilians. I have 4. I always have 1 just for home, then 2, 3 colors to combine. I'm still creating my collection.
Cada cor, aquelas tiras coloridas.
Well, you have the different colors, different styles. So this restructuring, Liel, if you can tell us about the operation of Havaianas in Brazil and internationally, and the perspectives, and when you think about terms of growth. Well, where we are in this transformation in Brazil, we've reached good results. In volume, we've grew over the last quarter that we've just announced. We grew 13% in regards to the previous year. So the volume is being recovered. The margins are record margins when you compare to the third quarter of the last years. These are record margins. So in Brazil, we are in a situation that the volume grows, margin improves, and the good news, we're getting market share in regards to the competition. So the consumer is choosing our brand at every point of sale, every moment of purchase. So I would like to say that in Brazil, we are in a moment of acceleration. In international, there is a big challenge because all the problems that we faced before, they compromised our supply chain to service the international market. And since there is only in the summer, it takes you time to recover the trust of the clients, the distribution of the product, and the consumer, remembering the Havaianas brand. We have had some progress, but we have a big journey. Talking about the future for the international, we divide the international market in three blocks. Europe, which is a big market for us, specifically the southern part of Europe. And in this market, we need to, in 2025, go back to recovering volumes, which is a big volume of Havaianas outside of Brazil. We lost because of all the operational problems. We're going to recover the volume. The other big market that is important are the Asian Africa markets in the Middle East. We grow a lot and we will continue to grow. Here, our big focus is improved profitability, assuring that we're selling products that are more premium with a bigger value for the consumer in the more profitable markets. And the last operation is the United States, where we have a small operation, and here we are restructuring the cost of operation so we can generate financial loss, so we don't have financial losses, but we are seeking the channels to regrow in the United States. So, talking about opportunities at Dexco, what is more important at Dexco? My wife says that I am a seal builder. I am always working. I am a great client of this company. So more than my wife would like, I am always refurbishing my house.
Thank you.
You look at the portfolio and you say you want to change things. Yes. Can you tell us, Antonio, this issue looking ahead, what are the strategies for growing and the issue of sustainability on results? Well, at this time, we're leaving a very specific year. It's a year that we build a series of changes, structural changes in the company that we promoted throughout 22 and 23. We consolidated a lot. So we are doing the growth importantly. We have the business growing, very much structured and leading the participation in the market. So this is a very solid business. We still found some challenges. For example, in ceramics, it's a challenge. We have high interest rates and these affect our process. And in this challenge for the country, we also have a situation that can favor us up ahead in a relevant way, that we have a big dominance in the sector of wood because we have a sustainable supply of forests. While all of our competitors look for the market and we see that this is a moment that is lacking on forests at the market. So Dexco has been favored. The next years, the next 2-3 years is a moment of focusing in trying to find the maximum profitability for the investments that we've done at a very important cycle of 21, and we are finishing now, so we shouldn't have relevant investments in the future. This is the process of focusing in reduction of indebtedness, increase in profitability, and this is what we're seeking. Recently, you've announced changes for the market, the choice of Raul for March of 2025, then your retirement, right? And I wanted you to tell us, what can we expect of this position of the company? Is there going to be any structural changes, prediction here? Dexco had the joy of doing this preparation for my retirement. I get to the limit statutory age next year. Very well prepared process by the shareholders, specifically the controller shareholders. The choice of Raul Guaragna is very appropriate. Raul has been with us for 3.5 years. He has gone through the wood division and the Deca division, so he has a holistic vision of the company. It's very important to have this renewal of the things. The company has to renew people, getting new ideas. So I am very happy with this moment and the moment the company as well. We've done changes, 2 months preparing the structure so that Raul can, yeah, same name, different surname. So I think that Raul will have the opportunity of having a solid team, but I always say, changes are and transformation is a day-to-day thing. We have to get used to it. That's why Dexco is transforming every day. So this moment of transition of command is being well done, and we can expect continuity of the cultural values, which is very important for Dexco, and new ideas and new plans. I have a question for Liel. Can I comment? Antonio has been at Dexco for 38 years. He started, well, this is Itaúsa, and the controllers of Dexco invited Antonio to be a part of the board next year, giving support for the management and the new projects. Congratulations.
Muito importante, quer dizer, essa trajetória.
Very important, well, this trajectory of Antonio with Dexco, but I wanted to reinforce another aspect, the aspect of innovation, because it's in the essence of the business of Dexco to bring products that are innovative for the market. And all throughout your management, Antonio, you've done that. I wanted you to comment about innovation in products that are done annually. We have a relevant investment for metal that was a big change in the market. We've had a new shop floor in Botucatu with larger sizes to service the needs of the market and import. So I wanted you to comment on the process that you conducted. Well, Raul, it's very important in this aspect. We have to think about the company. A company is always evolving, but it can but it does leaps when we have innovation. And this innovation, we try to analyze it in two ways. First, the innovation of products. We're building the biggest, maybe the most modern shop floor in Brazil, maybe one of the most modern in the world. We started in Botucatu in ceramics, big formats, new technologies, and also highlighting that, for example, Deca, that develops products for our kitchens, our bathrooms, we're always looking for more design, more technology, more quality, more sustainable, that consume less water, yes. And the point that is very interesting for the investors in this process, it's important to have the company with a mentality that is receptive for innovation. So today we have a big connection with startups. I took part in a big event last week where we did a balance of the two programs, the program of internal innovation, which is Imagine, that is 12 years, rewarding great ideas, and the Open Dexco, where Dexco is connecting with startups that allow us to work with important. The innovation has to be continuous, and this is something that stays with us. Yes, with Havaianas, we also have that. Havaianas always was innovative. We are always expecting the next one. We had a collab with Dolce & Gabbana. Yes, the flip-flops. Yeah, we couldn't even get it. It was all sold in 24 hours. This is an example of how Havaianas is reading the market and anticipating to the trends. The question that I had separated, and I'm going to bring to you from José Alves Bento. He wants to know, what can we expect of the results of Alpargatas? What are the perspectives? Can you detail a bit more on this issue up ahead? The question is from José Alves Bento. Thank you, José. Unfortunately, I cannot give you guidance because this is the policy of the company. we don't talk about the future results, but what I can tell you is discuss the trajectory, where we're going. As I said before, we are growing in volume. When you grow in volume, you have the capacity of reduction of costs that improve the margins, and we should continue down this journey. Because all of our avenues of growth are in Brazil to gain the market participation in international, recover the volume that we lost over the last few years, and this will bring more profitability, better margins in the EBITDA. This is something that we can expect. Something else that we can expect from Havaianas are the avenues of growth. Where we're going to grow. Many people ask me, but if we are at 210 million Havaianas in Brazil, how can we sell more? We can sell more. In Brazil, we can sell because in another channel, which is a specialized channel that sells usually footwear, where our participation in the market still half of our participation with the other, with the main channel. There's a lot of market share with a portfolio that is more focused. So clients and investors can expect a portfolio that will service different needs of their consumers. So as you said, if I have 4 Havaiana pairs, maybe I need another one. Maybe I need an Havaianas to, not go to the beach or the pool. Now I want Havaianas so I can go to a restaurant or an event, and we're going to have more products that service other moments in other segments. We're very strong in the female segment, but we don't have a big participation. We have stronger competitors in the male segment, but there is a portfolio that has opportunities of growth, and this is for Brazil and international. So to answer your question, what you've seen over the last quarters, which is positive cash generation, improvement of margin, and improvement of volumes, we should observe for the next quarters and years. So we're going to close our second block. Thank you very much for Antonio Leal. Thank you for your participation. I'm going to, get the loan to Milton so I can, do a reform in my house. Well, thank you very much for your participation. Thank you for being with us, and please continue. We're going to continue down this agenda to talk about the energy sector with Caio Torquato. He is the CEO of Copa Energia.
Olha, infelizmente o Caio, ele não pôde.
Unfortunately, Caio couldn't be here present on site, but he wanted to record a few important messages for those of you that are following up on our Panorama Itaúsa. Caio is going to talk about how Copa Energia has evolved over the years and the benefits captured since the fusion of Liquigás and Copagaz. So let's see the first message. Good morning, Alfredo. Good morning, Juliana. Good morning, everyone that is following up on Panorama Itaúsa. Answering to your question, in the conclusion of the fusion of Copa Energia, we consolidated as a leader of market in the GLP in Brazil. All throughout these 3 years, we focused on the capture of synergies, integration of people, integration of systems, incorporation of the partnership of Liquigás, search for results, financial solid results that accelerate the deleveraging of the company. This happened through management focus on results, cash generation, discipline in the capital allocation and the ROI, and also the implementation of tax opportunities that resulted in a decrease of the index of net indebtedness and the EBITDA of the company of 4 times, from 4 times to 1 times. So the expressive growth of 3.5 times the EBITDA in a period of 21-23, and the growth of 2.7 times the net revenue of the company. Currently, we are servicing 30 million clients a month, 24 states and the Federal District, and a net revenue of 11.7 billion. And Caio will talk about the strategy of the company. Alfredo will comment. Raul as well. Let's pass on the second message, which is talking about perspectives regarding the sector and the continuous search for creation of value of Copa Energia. Well, Juliana, talking about perspectives for the future, the company is seeking growth in the entrepreneurial segment and also in the substitution of wood by GLP, which is an important element for the energy transition. 26% of the population still cooks with wood, and the gas is a natural substitution of the wood. In 2024, the company acquired CTG, incorporating natural gas compressed and biomethane in our portfolio, indicating that we are pursuing our strategy on the medium long term. Besides biomethane and gas, Copa is also considering getting into other segments of project. The fuel for the future will bring great opportunities for growth for new energy levels, and we are evaluating this. It's important to bring the issue of advances in governance. Certainly, Copa Energia is a company that has done an exceptional work in capturing the synergies of the fusion with Liquigás and has shown important results. From the standpoint of governance, we have, well, as I say, Itaúsa, we've worked diligently with them. This is a non-listed company of control that is completely family-owned. And this is a big company. You've seen that they invoice almost 12 billion reais. It's a big company with thousands of employees. So we've helped a lot. Copa Energia, to improve the governance, we've joined with them several committees that service the board, but this has the characteristics of the governance of a listed company. Well, Caio, thank you for your message, but next year we want to have him here. Well, could you comment a bit more on the perspectives of growth? But to highlight, there are 2 big markets that Copa takes part, distribution and industry. And they've tried to do a repositioning, not only looking for growth, but increasing the margins. It's a very regulated market. Therefore, this is a market that, even though there are a lot of opportunities, there are some limitations, which are the regulatory limitations. And they've tried to get the growth through diversification. Caio commented on CTG, but several other initiatives are at hand. So we have to follow up on that, which Alfredo mentioned, the improvement of governance brings more robustness to the business. Now we're going to talk about infrastructure and for the next block, and with the participation of Radamés Andrade Cáceres, CEO of the CCR Group, and Eric Portela, which is the CEO of NTS.
E aqui comigo, então, estão
with Radamés, Miguel, Eric. Thank you for your presence here. Eric, the first time at Panorama. But we are both here aligned with several panoramas, and we always talk about the importance of the infrastructure issue in Brazil. It's a heated issue. So I wanted to ask you a general question on how you evaluate at this moment the situation of infrastructure here in Brazil. Well, can I start? Good morning, Alfredo, Luciana. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. We have a very special moment of infrastructure in Brazil. Brazil had 230 billion in four sectors: transport, energy, and utilities and telecommunication. And this is a cycle of growth. We're going to go over 240 billion, all-time high. The highest value of infrastructure investment in Brazil that we've heard of. And transport is a core part of the market, and we are talking about roadways. When you talk about the numbers of ADIP, the Brazilian Association of Basic Companies, 800 billion in projects that are identified. Out of the 800 billion, 500 billion in transport. So we foresee an expectation of revenue very favorable, and we have to qualify this cycle of investment as a super cycle of investment in infrastructure. Yes, favorable perspectives. Well, Juliana, Alfredo, when we look at the journey that Miguel opened the scenario and join it with the macroeconomic indicators that are very challenging, demand of healthcare, and evolution of performance of several sectors and potential, you can see that infrastructure is at the middle of this value chain. To be able to provide a cheaper side accessibility of people, infrastructure of the healthcare of the market. So there is an onlook, there is a global demand, specifically Brazilian, of demanding companies such as ours to do this transformation, to help Brazil to take the leap. So we are living at a unique moment. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. In our opinion, the high interest rates are a challenge for the capital cost. Our vision is transformational. Brazil has a diversified energy matrix, privileged. 80% of the renewables are here. Biofuels are getting in very strongly, more than in the 70s, with a pro-alcohol. We see national gas. They started to operate with 10 million cubic meters of gas. We're going to have Route 5 that is operated by Equinor, operated by 2018-2019, 10 million in gas. So this gas market that is consolidated, added to the biofuel, added to our diversified matrix, is great for logistics. We work with logistics of gas and futurely in the fluid logistics. For us, it's great for the creation of portfolios that we can foresee for the next years. Let's understand the agenda of investments. Let's start by Miguel. If you can share with us this agenda of investment, position in a market. Juliana, we have an investment program of 38 billion reais. Last week, we won a bid very important in São Paulo, the Sorocabana route, the rural region, and everything that is around Castelo Branco, with an investment on over 6 billion reais that are predicted. That is going to add to the 30 billion of the pipeline of investment that is already committed, and therefore we have almost 40 billion of capex to do. 80% of this capex is in roadways, freeways, and this is divided the rest of urban mobility and airports. The company earned the lines 8 and 9 here in São Paulo, CPTM, that are the privately operated, and we got the 6th round of airports, 15 airports that are at this moment being restructured and improved with an investment of 2 billion reais. All of that is a package of 38 that we have up ahead, and it's part of an agenda of growth. We are qualifying as a growth that is profitable and sustainable, and we can talk about the perspectives for our horizon of 2025 with recurrent growth of EBITDA cash generation that is fed by this pipeline of growth. Yeah, CCR, I see it. I go to Rio de Janeiro. I see it everywhere. There's an impressive growth. This is one of our main projects. The roadway between São Paulo and Rio, Dutra. We have an investment of 15 billion. One of the most significant ones is Serra Arada. So we did this trip, São Paulo to Rio. It's more challenging. Well, it's 40 kilometers. The investment that we're doing.
Radamés, conta pouquinho dessa questão dos investimentos aí de você.
Talking about the investments. Well, over 1,600 cities in Brazil are under private management. They, in a global set, have hired 160 billion of investments through their contracts. Aegea, within this marking, has contracts for operation in 766 cities. And more than 40 billion are in our portfolio. So we look within the financial discipline process and evolution of our model with appropriations of big scale and magnitudes of growth, still with a few assets evolving, a step for the preparation to be available in this advancement in the fight against the sanitary gap in São Paulo. So, 100 million people do not have access to utilities, and over 40 million do not receive water at home. Impressive data. Well, I wanted to highlight this point, because this program, Aegea is one of the main participants. It's one of the biggest programs of social inclusion that is done in Brazil at the moment. So I wanted you to comment on that, because the utilities landmark established in 2023, so we can have 99% of potable water, so we can have 90% of treated effluents. And Aegea has a lot of fronts with investments that are very significant. So I wanted you to comment. Well, great opportunity, Raul, to share not only the challenge, but how the company has organized to face the several fronts and still have the capacity to be able to advance from the standpoint of selection of assets and generating profitability for the shareholders. In general, when you invest R$1 in utilities, you receive R$4 back. So 3 in generation. So you're generating positive for the you're generating positive things for these cities. So it changes also the healthcare of the families that grow without the waterborne diseases. With this process, the activation of the local economy, job creation, the modeling of the engineering profile that is specific in a journey of 10 years to fill out the gap. In 2023, it's a situation that is similar with timing that is different with the Brazilian idiosyncrasy. So Aja is a master in Brazil because of this capacity that we have to adaptation to the territory and being able to make this service arrive in a privileged way to the most vulnerable, to the social tissues that are more vulnerable. The example, access of treated water and utilities in Manaus, the job generation of 5 million people that in Rio de Janeiro that come from poor communities. So besides the healthcare and the sanitary objective that is effective, the company also has the purpose of creating a legacy of including the vulnerable and helping with this process of transformation of Brazil. So it's nice to hear about this bias that Raul asked you to do a deep dive. I think it's impressive, the numbers and all the advancement that you bring to society. Eric, first time that you were at Panorama, so can you tell us more about this issue of investment? How is this working? Well, as I said, today Brazil has the pre-sal. It's knocking at the door of the predictions, and ANTS is localized facing the pre-sal, interconnecting the northeastern and the southeastern, and vice versa, and also interconnecting the gas that comes to Bolivia. So we did a strategic planning in 2022, and we understand that for the gas of pre-sal 2, it percolates for all the areas that are serviced by the gas in the post-sal and Guatatuba line. We have to do the investments we have. This will allow for the better percolation of the gas of pre-sal. We started the production of pre-sal gas. In this gas are getting to more mature markets that are sometimes serviced by Bolivia or Mexilhão. We have to monetize the national gas and stop with the bottlenecks. So the logistics solutions have an impact in the Brazilian economy, and 36 billion reais calculated by UFRJ by a work that we did alongside them a year ago. And we're developing that. And Eric, the big theme, one of the big themes for the industry competitiveness is the gas competitiveness. Gas is more expensive than abroad, and this doesn't allow you for a great deal of the industries to have activities in Brazil. In which way you see, you're talking about closing the bottlenecks, but it's more than that. How do you see the creation of this environment so that really the price of gas can be competitive in Brazil? Well, great. The this is a physical issue. But where do we see that this issue, where's the solution of this issue? Well, the solution of this issue is at competitiveness. Brazil decided to do a law of gas in 2021, inspired in Europe, where 30 years ago, Europe got the concept that those are the owners of the molecule cannot be the owners of transport. So we can talk about this. Those that are owner of Dutra cannot be the other providers. This is common. So we are the transporters of this. The transports are independent. And the lack of bottlenecks will have shocks of offering in the hub of consumption, for example, São Paulo. You can do the south of Brazil, you have the interior of São Paulo, and there you have several players that will do the supply at several points with several consumers. I'm going to do an analogy. The new law of gas of 2021 transformed a gas pipe that was known as a single owner that produced their own product. Now we have the analogy of being a shopping center that allows those that want to use and those that want to sell. And there we can do the best business. The competitiveness will provide the price. That happened in Europe. That happened obviously in a scalinated way, and this will happen in Brazil. So first of all, we have to stop physically the bottleneck, exercise the law of gas, and we have the regulatory bodies to help us. This is a fundamental point. And your question allowed me to see that we are down the right path, and we are working to open this market. We would leave from a single player that would supply this, but now we have 20 contracts with distributors in the network, and we have consumers appearing. Some big industry consumers that can choose the source of their gas, and it goes through us. Alfredo, hearing them, it's impressive. The wonderful opportunities that we have in infrastructure. These are huge for the three sectors, mainly the concession of roadways. I think that there's going to be a big opportunity, but I wanted to hear from Miguel and Radames, before you come back to the question, Juliana. Can you tell us about the capital allocation? When you're facing so many opportunities in the concessions and the privatizations, how do you allocate? How do you choose the best opportunities that are present today and that will come? So it's a choice between the present and the future. How do you do this study, this work in-house? Excellent question, Alfredo. And this effectively is a core competency of the CCR, supported by the shareholders, the board. We have a very mature thinking about the capital allocation. Several comments about this. First, a strategy that is well defined. If we think about this clearly, there is a sector of the group that doesn't want to allocate more capital. This is one of the board decisions in this new phase of the company, which was to focus in two segments for the capital allocation only. The roadways and urban mobility. We're talking about trains, we're talking about metros, we're talking about barges in Rio de Janeiro. This is the segment. The second one is to have a clear idea of what are the standards for the capital allocation in terms of profitability, risk management, in terms of schedule of investment and return. Time to cash, time to dividend, facing all the indicators that are necessary. And the group defined this in a very clear way. These standards are very precise in what we want with the bids. And if you remember, Alfredo, in a year and a half, CCR went through 3 roadways. Because of a discipline in capital allocation. We had the 2 bids with the return. We understand that for the risk-return relationship is what's adequate. In 2 of these cases, it was impossible to get to the bids in the threshold that we wanted. So that capital allocation is very rigorous. And this strategy is this also with the cycling. So we have very clear objectives of leveraging of the company. So we are 13.5% net debt and EBITDA. This is the range of leverage of the group with an equation that is very precise. Policy of dividends is very clear. The net revenue adjusted and a cycling of capital between the 5 and 10 billion reais in a vision of the portfolio that is dynamic and not a static portfolio. We want to look at our perimeter that is more dynamic and a growth that is more recurrent. The infrastructure, we know what type of investors we have in our papers, and we want to ensure a vision of recurring the pipeline of projects that allow us to have visibility on what is going to be the growth and the dividends and the results of the company. And through this triangle, we need equilibrium. So we have a dividend distribution of 15% and a cycling of capital that is 5-10 million reais and a leveraging that is controlled. This is the triangle that will give you, that will formulate our strategy. Alfredo, so before we talk about the market, as Miguel has said, it's important to share that the model of subsistency of the company or operations model, the capital allocation, transactional, starting with the assets, starting with the commitment of running or investment in infrastructure, we ended up developing in-house a process of quarterly reviews and discussions of the team, of the managers, with the regional angle, so that the dispute on the best allocation allows us to have the organic growth of the company to be above the expectation of projects that are gained. So you're always gain with the ordinary commitment of the advances of the projects of the portfolio, trying to maximize and anticipate to generate more value, discussing regulatory with the evolution of technology, so you can make the use more efficient, developing human capital so that you can make this capital allocation process more fluid and culturally reinforced this in a company. This process has made us that the big assets that are achieved by the company in the past had a journey of deleveraging that is very strong. So when you start with the investment in Rio de Janeiro, that you got to the global leverage of the 16 times, we are closing the last quarter at 3.7 times in the consolidated pro rata and 2 times in the partnership. Opening by the space of performance in the balance sheets, opportunities to look at the next market assets in a selected way, but also where we can apply this knowledge, this modus operandi of the allocation in several territories, getting the more use of projects such as Piauí, that we can obtain profitability and results in the matrix of risk control adequate to the desired standard. So that vertice of the evolution of culture in the choice of the best money, whether if it's micro or sectorial, has been an experience that is very important in the process of culture of the company. So I wanted you to, so we can do a wrap-up. Well, looking at the next year's perspectives, focus for the next years, if you can do a general, Eric, for Brazil for the next years, it has a vast reach of options. So using the national guidance, the national gas, we are very important. It started last year with Itaboraí, and there in Cominá and other sources of gas that are very important. And Brazil, with that, will have a dependency of gas, national gas, that is very strong. So making it independent of the national gas, which is of international gas, which is an energy market. Concomitantly, our reality gets us into biofuels. Ethanol, biogas, and this can complement the matrix in a very intelligent way, with an enormous potential. And we are looking at the future in the short and medium term of logistics solutions to monetize national gas with several players so that we can provide competitiveness. The imported gas is an interesting complement that energy integration of South America, the GLL, all of that logic that we are observing, that game that is starting, our national gas starts to be more important than the imported gas. From this moment on, the monetization of BN-73, maybe SEAP, the deep waters of Sergipe. So Brazil is going to produce gas importantly. So how can we be intelligent on getting this gas at the shorter logistic cost as possible and with the most, so that the fight for the market share generates the price. This is the first point. Second, we have to make our biofuels as competitive as hydrogen. Maybe ethanol is not the hydrogen of Brazil. Ethanol that started its career in 73, exactly because of the oil shock. I remember in 73, Brazil decided to go to ethanol because the oil went from $2 to $8. We said that we didn't want to depend on that, and then we did the biggest decarbonization in the world that was anticipated. In the 70s. We weren't thinking about the decarbonization, but we did it. So today, we have a flex fleet of cars. We have ethanol from corn with several potentials.
Então, no futuro, a gente começa a olhar o quê? O comportamento do Brasil com essa diversidade.
We have behavior in Brazil. And we have the opportunity of importing fuels and the hydrogen, even for the consumption in Europe. Brazil has opportunities. And we have a diversified matrix, and our company has a vocation for logistics solutions of low carbon and zero carbon. This is a summary of the medium and short term. Always exciting to hear about the potential of Brazil, that Brazil has for gas and the opportunities, the focus of our work over the next years. I think that in the long term, the universalization of utilities in Brazil is going full throttle. One of the last bids that we followed, it's inexorable that the organized civil society and public managers will not forego this process. So the journey of growth continues. Probably we will see a lot because of the support legal increase in this journey, so we can adjust the tariffs. And on the long term, our company is paying attention to these processes. On the short term, we have a strong concentration in big and recent acquired assets where we have the concentration in the acceleration of performance obtained in other assets within the portfolio. So Rio de Janeiro, Corsan in Rio Grande do Sul, Ceará.
As duas PPPs na região do Norte.
Two PPPs in the northeastern region. which are the relevant assets that are younger, they demand from the company an attention so that, as I was talking about the capital allocation, so they become a catapult and a strength to support the company in the next journey of growth in the short term. So the company is diligent, but more today looking about the maturing in-house. And the future of CCR. Well, we have a future that is very important. As Radamés has said, the 38 billion reais are committed, and in terms of investments in São Paulo, the roadways that connect São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, we have investments in Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, we have investments in the 15 airports that are distributed all throughout the country, in our modals in Salvador as well, in the VLT in Rio de Janeiro. In São Paulo, we have 4 lines. We operate 4 lines of metro and trains, 38 billion reais in these assets that are identified. And the growth, we talk about capital allocation. That was a question. Today in our radar, 120 billion reais and 70 billion reais in investments in urban mobility. New projects. At the end of the year, we're going to have 5 bids for roadways. We took part on the last one last week, but until December, we're going to get more. And in principle, CCR will take part in some of these. So it's a pipeline of projects that is very constructive, and it gives us a very strong visibility on what are the next years. And with a vision of being able to sustain a growth that, if possible, it's going to get to the recurring 10% in 12 years, 2035, generating a revenue above the cost of capital. And CCR is 25 years. And we have a video to remember and celebrate this story of CCR that summarizes very well what we are discussing in this story with Miguel. Let's run the video. To say that Brazil is a giant is no exaggeration. But a country such as this is not moving by itself. We have over 200 million giants, just like you and me. Giants that are leaving early every day with strength, dedication, courage, and on tracks, roads, or at airports. Giants that do not shrink, facing the challenges and are not afraid of distances. We're long ways ahead. That's why only just a giant such as CCR can be by the side of Brazilians in the challenge of moving this country. CCR 25 years. Moving Brazil is for giants. Very good. And I've just heard in the break that it's someone's birthday today. Congratulations.
Obrigado. 25 anos, então a CCR está mais novinha.
So CCR is younger.
Claro.
I wanted to ask a question.
Os 3, na verdade, mas
for the 3 of you,
aí 40,
but now taking into consideration
38 bilhões,
38 billion, 40 billion, a few billion here, where are you going to get this money for these investments? I mean, the ones that are subcontracted from these companies and the other companies as well. Several sources, Alfredo. I would like to say that the 3 main ones, as I commented, is the recycling of capital that the group wants to do. Recycling in-house is controllable. It's an instrument that we want to make dynamic in our strategy. Second, the capital markets. Today, the capital markets, CCR, is inserted in frequency, and it has a depth. It has a density that I believe that gives us surety that the CCR group will have access to capital in a fluid way. And the other ones are the banking finance, of which we will depend on the development banks. CCR has been naturally one of the big clients of BNDES Bank, and commercial banks as well. There is in Itaú in the portfolio of Itaúsa, and that's why we have a relationship with all the big banks. And we have facilitated access to capital. Capital is not going to be a limitation for us. Even because of the time that we have, if we compare with CCR, Aegea is a young company, 12 years, 14. So it comes from an intensive capital industry, which is not natural for infrastructure, developing access to capital markets, using debt and fitness. All throughout the journey, it was decisive for the transformational moment of the company to receive new investors in the portfolio. More recently, developing opportunities of a new structure of regional capital, such as Corsan. We work with Guinea, besides the partners of Aegea. But I believe, Alfredo, that the company, following on the big example of success stories, we see earlier than later the possibility of developing other paths for the capital structure, such as opening of the shares, listing of the shares in the stock exchange. This discussion is ever more frequent, and we believe maybe this is not the best moment to talk about this, but the company looks at this not as a journey of price, but as a journey of preparing the future, of leaving the capital structure more malleable, more opportunities, so we can allocate the competency of operational models and profitability of the assets that has characterized the company at the service of capital. That will do the universalization of capital in Brazil.
Eric pode complementar.
Of utilities in Brazil. Well, we are very robust in balance. We have shareholders that are very robust, a lot of infrastructure and experience, and ANTS has generated logistic solutions that have a counterpart that is very good. So it's a great business for Brazil. Imagine that you're investing a percentage, reasonable percentage, and you have 38 billion reais abroad. It's a good business for both. So I believe that all industries that work in this sense try to show to society this will get success in their capture. And when you deal with logistics, you deal with efficiency. And something that we identified previously, when we get our know-how and expertise, and that generates added value. So we believe that this big deal between the society and our cash robustness, the robustness of our shareholders will get us affinity to be able to do these solutions and decrease in bottlenecks. I wanted to add one thing. We see these companies and sectors that offer a lot of opportunities and that the investment plans are very robust. All of this requires labor, training, retention. What I wanted to highlight is not a question, but it's more of a highlight. I wanted to highlight that capacity of growing with growth, generating more opportunities is excellent. Certainly, these are employed in the construction of the project and in the structuring of the project. So this is something that we have to highlight. And in the portfolio of Itaúsa, and these are companies that generate a lot of employment. Well, it's important to talk about the commitment that you have with Brazil of decreasing inequalities, of access, of believing in Brazil. We have to generate employment opportunities. It's very good to hear. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. One comment. We are the owner of the time.
Não, eu acho que tudo isso mostra
All of this displays the capacity of the private sector of supplying the state in the investment of infrastructure. We always question in Brazil, oh, why to privatize? Why this and that? I think that these last 12, 25 years shows the capacity of the private sector of leveraging the growth of Brazil and supplying the state in its needs to offer the basic services and good quality services for the population. And partnership is fundamental. Thank you very much for the participation of Miguel and Eric. Thank you very much for arriving. And Eric, you know, you're the first time that you're invited. Well, you're going to be back next year. Thank you. It's always nice to be with you, but we are coming to the end of the event. Before we close this morning, we still have a bit more information because there is a special recognition to the work that Itaúsa has done over the last years with the relationship with investors and the market in general. And we will bring you Ricardo Martins, who is the executive director of the Associations of Analysts and Professionals of Investment in Capital Markets. And he will bring us a message, special message for Panorama Itaúsa.
Olá, Alfredo, Juliana.
Hello, Alfredo, Juliana, and the other executives and investors. And thank you. It's great to be here at Itaúsa 2024. I'm Ricardo Martins, executive director of APIMEC Brazil. Even though I was a participant of the meetings at Itaúsa, it's a great honor to take part as the president. The partnership of Itaúsa with APIMEC is of long term. 24 years of presentations with the partnership with the association, showing the transparency and the contract with the shareholders. With that, I am here to deliver you the seal of platinum to the executive of Itaúsa. Congratulations to you all. Well, it's ending. Unfortunately, it's ended. It went by very quickly. Well, this format is very interesting because now Alfredo is excited and he's calling more and more people. Doesn't matter that we go over time. It's part. The information is, well, we are displaying more and more content for you, and we're getting to the end of Panorama Itaúsa 2024. I hope that you enjoyed it. And I'm going to ask you for the final ideas of Alfredo and what you would like to reinforce. We've heard a lot. It's 50 years of Itaúsa. Well, thank you for the participation of everyone. Thank you, Juliana, for being the leader of our event with your experience and sympathy. And I would like to give you the message of optimism for Itaúsa, the investments. All of our companies are at moments that are very important. We're growing, and this is helping Brazil to grow. And we are very satisfied from working with our portfolio, the solidity of the companies, leading companies in the sectors. So it's an optimistic message. Let's continue to grow and invest in believing in Brazil. Thank you, Alfredo. I'm always excited. Congratulations for your work. And have a nice Christmas break, and we'll see you in the next Panorama. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the board of directors, the team of the holding. We are always trying to do the best Panorama for those of you that are here with us today. And solidity that pushes for the future of Itaúsa in these 49 years of history. We're going to continue with this journey, guided by the values, ethics, trust, and vision of long term. Values that have led Itaúsa here, and they are the base for Itaúsa over the next decades. Follow Itaúsa in the social networks, and we're going to celebrate together because the
marco dos 50 anos da Itaúsa.